welcome back to the Intelligent Conversations podcast. Today I have the honor to learn from Agi Keramidas. Agi is a dentist turned podcaster. He hosts the Personal Development Mastery podcast, which aims to provide you practical insights and improve your life. So, Agi, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. But I'm kind of curious, and I think the audience is as well. How did you go from being a dentist to a podcaster? Because that just seems a bit like a weird path to take.
It is unusual. It is uncommon indeed. Thank you very much for the invitation, Josh. It's a real pleasure to be speaking with you today on your podcast. The story, let me give you a little bit of a background so maybe that will answer your question better. So I'm Greek originally. You might have guessed by my unusual accent. So I lived in Greece.
I think it's cool.
Thank you. Thank you. I like the word exotic. For me, it has like an exotic element. Yes, I trained as a dentist. I went to university when I finished school, etc. I lived in Greece until I was 35. At that time, I was feeling not happy with my life. I was feeling an emptiness, even though on the outside my life as a dentist there was seeming to be going really well. I mean, I had my practice, I had a fiancé, I had friends, family, everything there. I was feeling empty inside. There was something missing and I didn't really understand it. It took me a while to start to process what I was feeling inside. But eventually what that led me to was the decision to live all my life as I knew it in Greece and pursue a new life in the UK. So I left family, friends, fiancé, the practice behind. I moved to the UK in pursuit of, something new, a dream that I was feeling. And I was still, of course, working as a dentist. So the podcasting happened later on. I just gave that as a little bit of a background. And I don't know if you want me to, I will take a pause just in case.
So, I mean, you moved to the UK, which I think is crazy. You just pack up one day and you're like, you know what? I'm going to pursue something.
Yeah.
How did you kind of stumble upon podcasting then?
The podcasting came afterwards. It came at some point when a few years after I moved to the UK, maybe 5 years or so, I found myself again in a situation where I was on the outside. Everything was seeming to be going very well. So I had finished a master's degree that I did here in the UK. But I was not feeling motivated. I was not feeling excited to go and do my work and everything. And that led me to a journey of personal development, self-discovery, reading the books, doing the courses, going to Tony Robbins, all these things. Eventually, all that led me to podcasting as a curiosity. That was the first thing that came to me as curiosity. So I think what's interesting for someone who listens in this situation is that I didn't become a podcaster while I was, very comfortable speaking to people and things like that. Nothing like that. It was very different. As a matter of fact, just 1 or 1.5 years before I started my first podcast, I was completely terrified of speaking to people. I was very reserved in social situations. I was shy, uncomfortable, all those things. And as a result of my personal development journey and transformation, I started, doing public speaking. One thing led to the other, and then the podcast was the next step. Again, I will take a little pause here because I'm not sure if you want to go to a specific direction.
No. I love that. And I love that you outlined how it was a process. It wasn't just, sometimes we have this idea in our head, this dream in our head that it's just going to, happen one day. But I'm like, no, it's a continual process that happens over time. And as you begin, and I think the most important thing is also acting on it too. And I love that you went out and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go chase this dream of mine. And you kind of said that at the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't necessarily really know what it looks like, but I know that there's more type of thing. And then just kind of making yourself uncomfortable, I think, is the biggest key. So a little bit also, I kind of want to share a story of my own. I used to be terrified of public speaking as well. I think we have something in common there. It's nerve-wracking, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like, it's terrifying. And, you kind of sit back and let other people do it. So I'm kind of curious, were there any roadblocks that you encountered or, challenges? I mean, I'm sure there was, but how'd you kind of overcome them?
It's a great question. Yes, there were many blocks and challenges. The first one that comes to my mind was that because of my accent, that you earlier very kind said it's you like it. But for me at that time, I felt like my accent was a barrier. When I would speak English, I thought that people wouldn't understand me because my accent is not clear enough. And that was a tremendous limiting block that I had. It was only after I went to courses and particularly I remember a boot camp, a 5-day public speaking boot camp. When you get feedback from other people, then I started realizing, yes, they can understand me fine. So that was one of the challenges that I faced. The other challenge, and again, I believe it is common with people who are, let's say, uncomfortable, if not terrified of speaking publicly. The other challenge is that the fear of the fear of judgment. What will they think of me? Maybe they will think that I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm talking about, or I will forget my words and I will be ridiculed. All those thoughts in the mind are, I think, quite common limiting beliefs. And I think you work through them. Again, when you get some traction and you get some feedback from people telling you, you know what, I really enjoyed what you said, then that voice of self-doubt starts to fade down a little bit. It's not as loud. You can still hear it, but then you have the feedback, that person came to me and said that she enjoyed my talk. So I must be better than that voice that speaks to me. So these are just two challenges that come to my mind.
I agree. I love that you shared that second one, especially because I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately too, and it's right. When you first try something new, you kind of have that energy of like, okay, like let's go after it, let's do this. But then after some time, you realize, oh man, maybe I'm not so good at this, and you start learning. Like you said, you go take courses, you go get training, all these type of things. Then after that training and some practice, that's the key part there, you find that other people start coming up to you and saying, hey, you're pretty good at this. And it's kind of weird. Like sometimes it's people say, oh, you need to have the confidence first. I'm like, I actually think the confidence kind of comes last. Like where you're like, you know what, maybe I'm actually not half bad at this. I don't know. Would you agree there?
You need to have the courage first to take the action, and then the confidence will come as a result of you taking the uncomfortable action, the action that will take you out of the comfort zone. The courage is the important thing. Act on what you need to do. And then once you've done it, yes, you have the confidence. So I don't think you can create the confidence. You can maybe visualize or imagine or do other practices, but the actual confidence comes once you have done something. That really gives you the confidence because I've done it. I can do it again. So that really helps.
I love that. I think that helps a lot, actually. And so I have a question kind of on that. It's at what point would I'm trying to find the right word here, pivot, and I guess that because I mean you did dentistry right in Greece and you decided to kind of pick up and go to the UK. I think a big part of it is consistency, like when you're learning something new and sticking with it long enough so then you can develop that confidence. How can we know whether we should stick with something? And I don't like using the word quit, but pivot away from something and try something else.
It's a great question. As for quitting, sometimes this it's the right thing to do. I think the word quit has like an energy, carries an energy with it that it's the wrong thing and you are a quitter or whatever else. But sometimes it is the right thing. But I like that you use the word pivot instead of, or let's say shift, or.
Yeah.
I think the answer to your question is it depends. For me and for many people that I have discussed similar matters in my podcast, there is this feeling. It's more like an intuition that speaks to you, not in words as such, but in a sense of knowing. You have like a deeper knowing that is not the usual intellectual, shall we say, or mental, or some words in your head. It's like a feeling. You can call it gut feeling, not necessarily gut feeling. It might be from your heart. It might be, but it's just a different kind of knowing. And that's one thing that I believe it can really influence your decision to pivot away from what you're doing. The other thing, which is maybe a bit more practical than the first one I mentioned, is that things seem to be a struggle constantly. It's like you're swimming against the stream and you have to put effort, and it's all a struggle. Things don't go right. You have, accidents, things happen that, for me, again, that is also a signal that because life is not meant to be like that. And once you align, and I think all of us have experienced that, maybe not for long periods of time, but even momentarily, when things really are put into place and everything seems like it's really flowing. Everything is easy. You meet the right people at the right time and so on. So when you don't feel that at all, for me, it's a good indication you need to do something about it.
I agree there. And I mean, if I can add anything to that amazing explanation there, I think if the fear of, like you talked about, it's kind of gnawing at your heart, and if the fear of not doing it kind of outweighs the fear of actually doing it, odds are you probably should do it. that because it's just gnawing inside, like, hey, if you don't do this, you're going to end up your whole life regretting this. And I think when that is in play, that, I mean, from what I understand, that seems to be a good indicator of, hey, you should pursue this. That's yeah. Any thoughts on that?
There is something that came to my mind, because when you really keep on struggling against the stream and you don't change, and unfortunately many people just do like that. They don't realize, and their whole life is just a constant battle against a way of living that is not really who they are or what they would be more aligned with doing. So I think eventually there comes a time that change will happen. A change of one way or the other. It might not be the desired change, but something will happen. You can't just keep on battling against the stream with no consequences. And you reminded me when you were saying that last comment that people change out of two reasons. And the first reason is inspiration. The second is desperation. So I prefer to be able to change, when I'm inspired to do something better than what I'm doing, and allow that to drive my actions and, take the risks, because you will go out of your comfort zone, you will do something different, there will be risks, but such is life. But if you don't take the risks, then there might come a point that you have to change out of desperation because, I don't know, because your wife divorced you, or because you got bankrupt, or because your doctor told you, you have a very serious disease. Anything like that can really, and it will change your life. But then you have no choice. And I think it's better if you do the changes before you reach that desperate or that bottom of the pit moment where you have to change.
I like that. Yeah. I really do. Inspiration and desperation. We either act in one of those two ways, and the difference is, as you kind of pointed out, is desperation is kind of forced upon you, and then inspiration, it's like, okay, you can act on this whenever you'd like, but eventually it could, if you don't act on it soon enough, it could turn into desperation. And I don't know, when you're desperate, you tend to behave like the things that over time that you've built up, like your values and whatever it may be, your true character tends to show when the stress is put on you and the challenges start coming in. And I think that's where the people's true colors begin to show. So I have a question on this then. How would one then, because a lot of people, they're going off, let's say, to school or starting businesses, podcasts, whatever it may be. How would they kind of look to establish that kind of base or those values because I think that's really going to guide them to have, to make great decisions, whatever it is in their life. Does that kind of make sense?
I think so, yes. I think the most important starting point, let's say, or you mentioned values, I would share that it's very important, if not the most important thing, to first of all understand where you are, to have clarity about your situation. And many of us make some goals or write down some things in a piece of paper without really understanding why they want those things, or the goals are too vague, or they are not really aligned with that. And I think the solution for that is the starting point, to really understand, especially in times when, of change, as you said, might finish in the college or starting a business or starting a family or whatever it is. I kind of lost my train of thought on when I was going with this.
No
and see if I can pick it up. it will come back to me.
It happens to all of us. No, I think, just kind of on the values, from my experience, I think having that base is critical, because when you come and are faced with some of these decisions, whether it's inspiration or desperation, you kind of already know who you are. You kind of have that awareness of who you are. And it's like, okay. And then it's kind of just like a list. It's, okay, here are the pros. If I go this direction, here are the cons. And then it's just, okay, which one do I want more? And then you go in that direction.
For me, that's the essence in many ways of personal development. It is looking inside yourself, seeing the sides or the elements that you comprise of, and then building them or improving them or growing them. But you first need to understand what they are, your characteristics, and then move it. And that's why I'm so fascinated with personal development and a lifelong learner. And I believe that's as a value, because you mentioned values, growth and learning are very high values on mine. I can't even think of myself at some point, stopping and saying, okay, I have learned enough. Life is good. I'll keep it exactly like that, and there's nothing else for me to do. No. It is ongoing. It will only end when I'm not here anymore. Until that time, I will keep on growing. I think Tell me if you agree, Josh, with that. I believe that is, for
100%.
most people, it's a need to grow. They have to grow. They can't just stagnate. They become miserable if they do.
It's true. I 100% agree. If you aren't, what is it? I mean, I did some research beforehand. I think it's on your website where you have the quote. I'm trying to remember. It's Albert Einstein, right? The person that stops learning is...
Once you stop learning, you start dying. Yes, you're right. It is
Yes.
Einstein.
Okay.
Yes, once you stop learning, you start dying. Yeah.
And it's so true. And I think, so here's kind of something, a danger that I think people need to avoid. And it's, how do you... So like, if people come to you asking questions, obviously you know a lot about a specific subject. When is it, I guess, a time to kind of just step back with that humility and say, you know what, I'm going to let them figure it out, or kind of just intervene and say, no, I know the answer. When sometimes maybe you don't even know I don't know, where's that line kind of, if that makes sense?
I think it depends on the situation. Where is that line? And what are we talking about? A specific example here, like in business or personally? How do you mean?
So I guess where I'm getting at is maybe you think you know the answer type of thing. I guess more of accepting when you're wrong, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Is that...
I think to accepting where it's a valid point. I understand what you mean. Accepting when you're wrong, it's difficult for many of us because there is a part of us that wants to be right, and our ego doesn't like admitting that, you know what, I was wrong. However, there is something more important than being right, in my opinion, and that is to find the truth. What is the truth about whatever topic or matter we're talking about? So by sticking to our opinion and not admitting it is wrong, we hold back from the truth, which is much more beneficial to us if we know it. So I think, yeah, please, it's a question that I can't really answer precisely because it depends. But do admit when you're wrong. We have to admit it, as hard as it might feel.
Yeah, no, you did that great. Sorry, I'm trying to phrase that question. Well, it was more of like sometimes, right, we come in maybe with that overconfidence is I guess what I was really getting at. And you laid it out perfectly, and kind of having that humility to say, you know what, I was wrong here. And I think if anything, that shows an openness of like, hey, I'm willing to learn. And right, confidence isn't knowing everything, right? Confidence is being willing to learn more, if that kind of makes sense. Sorry, I'm trying to like explore kind of what's going on in this noggin up here.
Confidence is not the same thing as arrogance. You can be confident, but if you're arrogant, that is a different thing, and we don't want to go there. And you know, if we are wrong, if things don't work out, it's better to accept them, learn from them, because that's what growth mindset is all about. Mistakes, they are not mistakes, they are learning opportunities. It's only when we label it and we allow it to punish us that it is a mistake. It's how we learn, human beings, by trial and error. But you do something, doesn't work, okay, do something else, rather than, you know, punishing yourself or punishing others. Or it is part of the journey of life.
Yeah. So this is just a natural question that I have. It's how do you then find that either internal or external motivation when things really get tough, or you're in those learning experiences where, I mean, it's not fun stuff. Like sometimes you're like, oh crap. And how do you find that motivation to keep going, like through those challenges?
The motivation always comes from your reason, your why you're doing something in the first place. And the bigger your motivation is, the bigger your reason for doing something is. Let's say, for example, you want to get out of your job and you work on a side hustle or something. If you really want to get out of your job, your motivation to work on the side hustle will be big. And even if you have challenges, you will persevere. If your motivation is, well, let me give that a try. If it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, I will figure it out. Then when you have the challenges, it's easier to stop. So the motivation has to come from what is your drive behind doing what you're doing. And that's, again, something that you have to clarify at the beginning of any endeavor, especially if we're talking about, the important things, the big things like business or planning for something, significant. Understand where you are and why are you going to do it? What is your motivation? Once you have realized that this is why I'm doing it, then, unless, as we were talking about earlier, things happen and you realize that this was completely wrong and then you have to pivot. But unless that happens, the challenges are part of it. No, I haven't found any path that was, paved with rose petals, and there are always obstacles, challenges, things that we have to overcome. So I don't know if that answers your question about where to draw the motivation from. Of course, there are practices, there are techniques, that help you build the discipline and things like that, like having a morning routine and things like that. There are more practical things. But I think it starts internally from your reason why you do what you're doing.
Yeah, you have to start with that desire, I think, is what you're getting at. And so this is something I'm just going to kind of put out there. I am guilty of this, but I get distracted very, very, very easily. Like something, like let's say there's potential opportunity. I kind of look at it like, oh, this is kind of cool. But then like around after 3 months, I'm like, oh, maybe I didn't want this, or maybe and you kind of learn like, oh, this, I had no interest in that. How do you kind of filter through the distractions and kind of find out what it is you really, really want?
There is that phrase, the acronym actually, FOCUS, which is follow one course until successful. And that is the exact opposite of what you were saying. The shiny pennies. You look and there are. It's full of opportunities, and I'll hold my hand up because I also have been guilty of that. I have tried at least 10 times more things than I should have because of exactly that. It's human nature. It's curiosity, fear of missing out, all these opportunities, but. Having the clarity to ignore those things and focus on your main thing, or it doesn't have to be one main thing, maybe it can be up to 3. But then you have to give to anything an amount of time for it to produce results. The temptation with those shiny objects, the other things, is that this one will be different, and in a couple of months I will have, found the magic formula of that's. But it doesn't. I have never found anything like that. I don't know of many people that found really the magic pill that. Any opportunity will require your effort. It will require your time, it will require learning. So in a way it's easy to jump from one to another, and after a few months say, that doesn't work, let me try the next thing. But you mentioned consistency, and I think that is the important thing. Consistency, momentum. When you work on something and it starts to pick up, then eventually it compounds and takes off. But it might take longer than you were hoping for or you were planning for. That doesn't mean it's wrong. Let's jump to the next one. The thing with the next one is, again, you start at square one. So if, let's say, you worked on a project, an endeavor, and have completed, let's say, 80% of what you needed to complete. Of course, you don't know it's 80%, but let's assume that it is from someone looking at it outside, 80%. Then stopping that to start something else, you're still at 0% when you start that. So I think patience is one good word that comes to mind to answer your question. And also, trusting that and your feelings and your intuition, whether this is really the right thing for me, or I'm just, looking for something that is easier, faster, quicker, will make me richer, more beautiful in 2 days. It doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, it's true. No, it does not happen like that. And I like that you touched on patience. It's sometimes the person we need to be patient with the most is ourselves. Like, other people are very, very patient with each other, but sometimes it's like the person we beat up the most is ourselves, and we gotta be patient with ourselves and be like, look, you just started this 2 days ago. Like, it's gonna take some time
Yes.
to like actually develop this. If it's a skill that it is that you're pursuing, it's going to take time. So kind of on that then, I'm going to use this as, I hate to wrap this up, but I'm going to use this as the intelligent question of the day. How would you develop patience in a world where it seems like instant gratification is everywhere?
That's a great question. And indeed, we are so used to be gratified instantly with, you want things now, yesterday. And many things we just click of a button away from us in our society. So to cultivate patience, one thing that comes to my mind is discipline. And self-discipline is, the ability to do what you say that you would do, regardless of whether you're feeling like it anymore or not. Because at some point you say, I will do something. And then the next day you don't feel like it and you don't. That's where discipline will come in. So discipline will lead to patience. Because if I have the discipline to work on a project, a task, whatever it is that we're talking about, that will cultivate my patience indirectly. I think maybe indirectly rather than directly. The other thing to help with, ignoring the callings of instant gratification is to look at the bigger picture and look at, okay, if I indulge myself in that instant gratification, whatever that might be, what's down the line? Does it take me completely off my track of where I was going? So you have to critically assess the decisions, and maybe that's, I will leave that as maybe something actionable. When you are about or you are tempted to take the easy path of instant gratification, for a moment, take a breath and stop and not click the button immediately. Take a breath, think what you're about to do, assess it, and then if you still want to do it, do it. But I find that even the moment of becoming aware that this is what I'm about to do, this is what I'm about to happen, helps. And I think patience builds up little by doing these things, by the self-discipline, by being more aware of your decisions, and things like that. I wish there was a very easy way to say, okay, do this and then you will be patient. But patience, again, it is a skill you can improve it, and I think that's what we should be aiming for. It's not like either I'm patient or I'm not patient. There is a whole spectrum of grades in between them. So let's work into increasing our patience.
That is the intelligent answer of the day. And to just add something to that last part especially made me chuckle because it reminded me of my parents, where they said, we thought we were patient until kids came along. And I'm like, yeah, like everyone thinks they're patient, and then all of a sudden you find something even more extreme. You're like, whoa, now I really got to be patient. And it's a process, it's a journey. Well, Agi, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate you taking the time to come on. You mentioned prior to this that you were going to offer something for free for anyone that's tuning in today. But also, where's the best way people can find you, either on social media, on the internet, books, any of that fun stuff?
That's great. Thank you for the conversation. I really enjoyed it. As for the gift, because with my podcast I have over 300 episodes now, so there is a lot of knowledge in there, but no one has the time to listen to 300 episodes to find what they're looking for. So I have collated an ebook, which is the top 10 episodes in 3 main categories of life, like personal growth, money, and health. So it is a free ebook that has a summary of those episodes. And if you want to listen, there are links there to listen to them. And you can find it, download it for free at agikeramidas.com/top10. I'm sure you will put the links in the show notes. My podcast is called Personal Development Mastery. I think that is really the best place for someone listening to this. If you enjoyed listening to this, switch to the podcast, look for the podcast and listen to an episode. I think that is the most seamless, let's say, transition. But social media, you can find me everywhere as Agi Keramidas. Thank you for an intelligent conversation, Josh. I really enjoyed your questions and the prompts that you gave me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So everyone, as you can tell, that is Agi Keramidas. He's a very intelligent person, has great things to share. I challenge you guys, if anything spoke to you, to go click those links. They'll be in the description below. Stay tuned till next week. We have a great guest lined up for you guys. See you guys next week, and let's get after it. Hey everyone, if you liked this episode and would like to hear more, be sure to hit that subscribe or follow button. We release a new episode every Wednesday for you guys to listen to. Thank you guys so much for the support that you give. We could not have done this without you guys. If you would like to be a potential guest on the show, check out intelligentconvos.com and fill out the form there. Thank you guys again, and let's get after it.